This is a post about a free money exploit. However, if you follow these instructions, you're going to get hacked and scammed for hundreds of dollars. In this video, we break down exactly how the scam works, from the initial hook and social engineering aspect to the JavaScript malware that executes in your browser. Welcome to our threat hunting series, where we investigate and dissect real-world scams and exploits that are live on the internet at the time of recording. The aim is to raise awareness about online threats. So, as I was preparing a new paste on Pastebin, I noticed these intriguing posts on the public paste section. Of course, I got curious and decided to take a look. And apparently, this is the documentation of a leaked exploit that is capable to earn you $13,000 in 2 days. Now, here we have a bunch of explanations with no context. As you see, by reading them, you can't really tell what the author is talking about. Nowhere can you see what are we even exploiting. And this is not a coincidence. The goal is to spark curiosity and raise questions which lead the user into opening this document. By the way, check this out, this has 144 views for 29 minutes. The link opens this Google Docs document. Here we finally get a bit more information. Apparently the exploit is against swapzone.io. That's a website that allows you to exchange different cryptocurrencies. By the way, look at how many people there are actively reading this document right now. Apparently, the post owner has an exploit which allows you to gain 38% more money than intended when you swap Bitcoin for another currency. Scrolling down leads us to the step-by-step instructions to execute the exploit. We go to SwapZone, select Bitcoin, and then to load a node, we have to paste some JavaScript in our URL bar. Feel free to pause and read the rest of the bait here, but take note of these messages. Later you will see them again. Now let's dig deeper and go check out this script. Now paste.sh is another paste service. And here's the script that we're supposed to execute in our browser. Here I have it in an easier to read format. First, it defines a constant API path and sets it to a path to this JS file. Let's check it out quickly and see where this leads. And well, it leads nowhere. It is a fake URL to a non-existent JS file. But that's no surprise, because in the next line they are fetching the API path constant but replacing swapzone.io/exchange with snippet.host, and the rest of the URL is replaced with this. So the actual destination that is fetched looks like this. Next it saves the response and then looks for this specific Node.js chunk. If we check, this chunk does exist on the swapzone.io page, but what does it use this for? Maybe that's a way to verify that the user is actually on swapzone.io. In a case it is, it creates a new script tag, places the text from the fetch response in there, and inserts it in the page. And finally, an interesting part is that it removes this Node.js chunk. Okay, seems like this is going to be the real malware, and this is just the script that injects it in the page. So let's visit this one. Now snippet.host is another provider for sharing pastes. By the way, this was created 1 day ago and has 122 views. This means at least 122 people probably did execute this script in their browser. So let's dig into this. As you can see, this is gonna be very obfuscated. Here I have it beautified. Now obviously it's hard to make sense of this. However, if we scroll to the bottom, right here we can see an array of a lot of hex strings. Malware sometimes uses similar arrays to store encrypted or encoded values and then evaluate/decrypt them in runtime to retrieve the needed data and use it. If we spend enough time, we could probably reverse engineer it to the point of understanding the encryption and reversing it. However, I decided to try and use AI, and it was actually able to find that the original values were simply XORed with hex DC. So we should be able to retrieve the plain text here if we XOR each of these values with hex DC. And by the way, if I do Ctrl F here and search for 0xDC, there is definitely an instance of that, but I honestly can't be bothered to try and read this. AI did it for us. So how about we take one of these values and try decrypting it in CyberChef. If we do from hex, and now XOR with 0xDC. As you can see, we get a plain text value of something that looks like a Bitcoin address. Let's take a look at something else. And that's another one. We'll dive into the Bitcoin addresses a bit later, but now let's look for something else other than a Bitcoin address. For example, this one is quite short. Okay, this says value. Let's see what else we have. Looks like some code fragments. Let's create a script to decrypt all of these so we can look at them on a bigger scale. Here I have the ChatGPT script, and we need to place our values here. So let's do that. Okay, and let's try it. And there we go. Looks like we have some CSS classes, Bitcoin addresses. We have an address to API-QRServer.com. Apparently they're displaying some Bitcoin address, probably QRs to the victim. Here we have some HTML, a lot of HTML, more code fragments, more Bitcoin addresses, some CSS, 0.003 Bitcoin, that's interesting, /transaction. Oh, and here we have these messages that we saw in the instruction. By the looks of it, this script is definitely building some sort of HTML form to fish something out of the user. Now we'll look at the Bitcoin addresses in a moment, but what I'll do now is I will give AI all of these values and we'll ask it to try and reconstruct the page. Okay, here is what it gave me. Obviously we can't be sure this is the original page. It most definitely did hallucinate something, but it should at least give us a general idea of what it is like. It also tried to reconstruct some script and added all of the Bitcoin addresses. What I'll do is I'll just comment out this script because I don't really want to run it. And let's visit the page. Okay. Some elements do look quite like the screenshots we saw in the instructions. It's a bit broken because the JavaScript is disabled, but it gives us a general idea. The victims are being fished with a page that looks something like this to send apparently 0.0031877 Bitcoin to some address. And now what you're curious for. Let's check those addresses on the Bitcoin blockchain. I went through all of them. Most of them have no recorded transactions, except 3. This account has 0.004 Bitcoin, and on the 5th of January 2026, there was a transaction to this address. Did it come from this scam? Who knows? Well, this one we are not sure, but let me show you something interesting. This is another wallet. And look at how much it received on January the 5th, 0.0031877 Bitcoin. Does that look familiar? Well, it is the same value as the minimum amount that had to be sent here. Is this a coincidence? Unfortunately, I would bet it is not. Somebody got scammed. Here is the final wallet. Here we have a batch of Binance transactions, and here is the address. As you can see, the value is again greater than the minimum here. So is this some victim sending the scammer Bitcoin from their Binance account? Well, I would say it is definitely a possibility. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. If you wanna try and dig any deeper, it's all you. Hopefully we made you at least a little bit more security aware, and potentially you even learned a new trick when it comes to researching this stuff. Would you like to see more of this type of threat hunting content? Let me know in the comments. Or if you're in the mood to learn more cybersecurity, YouTube thinks this video is perfect for you. See you there.